Hey guys, this is 5.1 out of our principles class. Last time we learned about how to graph an equation when it's written in the y equals mx plus b format. That means we have an equation similar to y equals 2/3 x minus 5. If that's what we have, we know we could go down to -5, right? That's our first value, is this last number, and then we can go up 2 and over 3, going up 1, 2, and then go over to the right 1, 2, 3, and put a dot right there, and then there's our line. Okay, so that was what we learned about in chapter 4. We learned about how to use that version of the equation to be able to graph. Our focus today is to build that version of the equation. Now, to build it, we need two specific things. We need to know what the slope is, and we need to know what the y-intercept is. But if we know those two things, we can build the equation pretty directly. So, for instance, if I tell you the y-intercept is 3 and the slope is -1/2, the equation would be y equals, I put my slope first, -1/2, but it has to have the x with it. And then it's a y-intercept of +3, so I put the +3. And this is the equation for that slope and that y-intercept. Our homework assignment is really about those two things. The catch that we're going to have to deal with a little bit today is understanding that the slope won't always be given, or the y-intercept for that matter. So we are going to have to do some algebra along the way to make it a little bit easier to solve. So let's take a look at some of the problems from the homework and make sure that we understand what do we do when the slope and the y-intercept aren't given to us directly. So we come down here to the homework and we start looking at the problems that you're assigned. These first questions, give us the slope and the y-intercept, slope, y-intercept, and so on. So if I just grab question number 8 here, okay, my equation would be y equals my slope, 3/4 with x. That's got to have the x with it. And then because I have a -6, I will write -6. If it was +6, if it was +6, it'd be +6. And there is my equation. It's just that simple. You can pause the video if you need that written down again, but it's just that simple to start out. Now on questions 10, 11, 12, and so on, this section here, notice we see the y-intercept in the graph. And then they show us the movement that tells us about the slope. So on 10, I could say that y equals, first thing I need is the slope. That's a rise of 3, that number comes first, over a run of 3, that goes on bottom, and that gets the x. And then I look at this number down here. It is crossing at -4, that means -4. While this equation is okay, and it's technically valid, whenever there's a fraction that can be reduced, we should try to reduce that. We know that 3/3, because they're identical, is the same as 1x minus 4. That's the preferred version of our answer, but again, as long as we're putting things where they belong, formatting isn't the critical issue. It's really about where's that information going to and coming from. So all of these can be written that way. Now notice when you go down 1 and over 1, then it becomes a negative slope. Okay? All right. So that's what we're going to be doing in this section, is writing the equations from the graph. And you can see the same thing is here. They don't draw the slope out, but they do give us the y-intercept, and we go up 1 over 3. It's pretty much the same thing. Where it gets a little bit more difficult is right here, where we're not given the slope. We're given 2 points, but not the slope. Now, one of these points will have 0 for an x. That makes the number associated with it the y-intercept. Okay, so we always do have the y-intercept in these problems. It's the number that's paired with a 0 as the x. So when I look at 29, it's negative 24 would be my y-intercept. Okay, it wouldn't be the negative 6 because it's got to be a 0 of x to give me the y-intercept. Let's take a look at 26 and just talk about how are we going to find the slope to go with that y-intercept. Okay, so I know that my equation right now is y equals something x minus 4, right? Because if you look at it, it's negative 4 and negative 4, okay? Or sorry, 0, negative 4. That tells me that my y-intercept has to be negative 4, but I don't know what the slope is. So I've got to find that first. Well, we learned a couple of assignments ago how to find the slope. And the way we learned that was that the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That is to say that we take the last y, negative 4, and we minus the first y, which was also negative 4. And that's going to be divided by the x in the last one, which is 0, minus the x in the first one, which is 2. That should give me 0 over negative 2. And you might be tempted to just write 0 over negative 2. But let's remember that this is an example of a problem that has a slope of 0, which means I can actually put a 0 here. Now this is technically correct, and it's okay, but since the slope is 0, so I want you to understand, a lot of the problems stop right here and you're done. But this is a special case. Because x has a slope of, the equation has a slope of 0, 0 times x is 0. And that would leave me with y equals 0 minus 4 or just negative 4. So number 26 is sort of a special case. You don't need to worry too much about that one. Most of them, again, will have an answer that looks like y equals 2x minus 4 or something like that. And that's really what we're after. Now the goal of all of this is to be able to deal with the real world. So let's take a look at example, or question number 46. A camera shop charges $3.99 for an enlargement of a photograph. Enlargements can be delivered for a charge of $1.49 per order. So, I mean, if you think about it, you wouldn't charge me to deliver each individual picture, just the group of pictures. So maybe I make 10 enlargements. That $1.49 is kind of a one-time charge. And so we want to build an equation that will help us understand how much this is going to cost for me to get some enlarged pictures and get them delivered. So we have to understand about our y equals mx plus b. Okay. The b is what we call the y-intercept, or what we call a flat rate. A flat rate is a rate that doesn't matter how many you do, it just matters that you do it at all. And then this is our slope is our variable rate, where it depends on how many you're using. So in this problem, the $3.99 is what it's going to charge me every time I enlarge a photo. So I might order 10 pictures to be made bigger. Well, I'm going to pay $3.99 for each of those pictures. That is a variable rate. So this would equal, y would equal 3.99x, $3.99 per picture, plus that $1.49 is a one-time fee for that delivery. So that'd be 1.49. So now I know how I'm going to build that's my equation that lets me determine how much money I'm spending. Now they want me to figure out, what if I ordered 8 pictures to be enlarged? Well, then my equation would be 3.99 times 8 plus 1.49. And if I grab my calculator here real quick, 3.99 times 8 plus 1.49 equals 33.41. So if I want these 8 photos enlarged and delivered to me, it's going to be $33 $1,000,000.41. That's not including tax, but we'll go there another time. All right. Well, hopefully this helps you get through 5.1 and you understand how we're building these equations. And we'll see you in class.